Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Grundleverse. My name is Grundle, and today we are talking about Hereditary. Now, I consider myself a horror fan. I see nearly every scary movie that comes down the pike. I'm especially a fan of haunting and psychological horror, but nothing I've seen, at least in recent memory, even comes close to the level of terrifying that was Hereditary. This is where I'd normally give a brief synopsis of the premise of the movie, maybe explain a little about the characters, but none of that even feels relevant after having seen it. I drove home from it in a kind of daze, my brain still not fully wrapped around what I just saw. It isn't relying on jump scares, though there are a couple. Neither is it full of gore, though when it decides to include some, it's certainly effective. It isn't difficult to watch in the same way that something like Hostel or House of a Thousand Corpses might be, but about an hour and a half in, part of my brain was screaming, just make it stop! It exudes a feeling of madness that something directors of various Lovecraftian films have tried and failed over and over to bring to the screen, and it doesn't need any eldritch horrors beyond our imagining to do it. Crazy thing about all that is that this is barely a horror movie for the first hour of its 2-hour runtime. That isn't to say that nothing happens in that hour. In fact, one of the most insane moments I've seen in a movie comes fairly early on, and it sets your brain up for a lot of what's to come. But the event that starts things unraveling for the family at the center of our story, while horrific, isn't something supernatural at all. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that event and the psychological fallout for everyone involved is done in such a way to knock your feet out from under you and leave you unsure about what to expect from the rest of it. So that when it finally does decide to be a horror movie, you're already in the headspace the filmmakers want you to be in, which is something a lot of horror movies aren't able to pull off. Pacing is probably the aspect of the movie I would credit with most of the success. It never moves too fast or too slow, and the supernatural and psychological elements are woven together with enough normalcy to make the insanity hit home all the harder when the action, though I hate to call it that, picks up. All of this leads up to a climax that is surreal in a way that even after everything I'd seen up to that point, I was not prepared for. And it should be noted that, unlike a lot of other things in this vein that I've seen, it's not afraid to actually have an ending. No quick cut to black with a bunch of unanswered questions. It's like, yep, that's what was happening. Hope you're satisfied. Which is something I really appreciated, because I certainly was satisfied with it. So all of that said, you'd think I would just toss out a full-on recommendation for Hereditary, or at least recommend it for any horror fans. But I don't. I don't think this is one for the casual movie audience or even people who like general Hollywood horror. This is a hard movie to watch, and one that will only be enjoyable if you really do want to see something that might leave you a little shaken. I'm sure you could counteract that feeling by going with a friend and making dumb jokes to each other throughout, but at that point, I don't know that you'd even really enjoy it. But if you're willing to open up your mind to what you're watching, I think you'll find this to be one of the most satisfying horror experiences you've had at the movies in years. I mean it when I say it. If you're open to it and want to be scared, go see Hereditary. That's it. I know I usually have a lot more to say about this stuff, but I really think this is one that you should just go experience. If you want to experience this, go experience it. So, that's it. That's all I got. If you liked this, hit like and subscribe as usual, and join us again next time. Good night, everybody.